السلام عليكم أيها القائد، ولكم التحية من جامعة كامبريدج.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله. أنا سامعك.
I can hear you all. تفضل سيد القائد، نسعد دائما بكلماتك.
طيب. بسم الله. أولا
In the name of Allah, good evening to you all.
الأساتذة الأجلاء وأبناء الطلبة.
I'd like to greet the professors and students of Cambridge University. Thank you very much for inviting me to this occasion and to talk to you. And I had an invitation previously a couple of months ago from Oxford University, and gave me the pleasure to talk to them. And it augurs well to talk to you all today. I like a lot to talk to students of the Cambridge Great University, and I'd like to greet the professors and the students, and I'm quite sure they are interested in the international affairs, and I think this will help all. There are some issues that we need to tackle, and I think these issues might affect in so many spheres, and it might have some negative aspects as well. And I think the world now is a small village, and that village should be interested in peace and should be interested in knowledge, and everyone should cooperate with the other, and there's no need at all to destroy that village that we all have and we all share. We need to know that the solar system is very important, and we also have to be determined to serve and save the Earth, which is part of the solar system. And hence, I think a human being must feel sorry. The human being who is the human creature on Earth should feel sorry for what happened in the world, and should be very careful not to go into conflicts and not to go into wars, because we are the only human beings on this earth. And I think this feeling is getting more and more into the human beings. And I think you personally, when you asked me to talk to you in this occasion on such international issues, this gives me an impression that we all, the human beings, are in need to solve our problems, to understand each other, and we need not to be isolated from each other, because the nature now of the globe, the globalization, the communication revolution makes the whole world a small village, and every part affects the other part. You asked me to talk about some important issues that you are interested in. Such as that hot issue on the 27th of this month in Sirte in Libya. We will be hosting a meeting to solve the so-called Darfur problem. I need to talk about this problem because the Darfur problem now is a worldwide issue, and everyone talks about Darfur. But I have a very personal point of view in this connection, dear professors and dear sons. And I think in the future you will be the leaders of the country, you will be ministers, you will be the leaders, you will be the decision makers in your country. So I'm quite sure that you are interested and to be aware of this issue. I think that the Darfur problem and the Darfur issue, and I think you as a student at the Cambridge University and the media people and everyone who is attending the CERT International Conference on the 27th of this month, this issue is like so many other issues. It's an issue of tribes. You might laugh if I say that the main reason of this issue is a camel. It's a quarrel over a camel. It starts with a quarrel over a camel, and it's now an international issue. Africa has like 1,000 issues, and these issues are about water, are about grass, and Africa is divided into 50 countries, and the tribes are divided amongst so many countries, though they belong to each other. These problems of tribes are endless, to be honest, and Africa is living these conflicts for ages and centuries. And I think that these conflicts will come to an end, and the African people will leave that primitive area, and we will end the problems amongst tribes. The problem that we are having now is we politicize such problems between tribes. The Darfur problem is being politicized. They started the quarrel over a camel, and it's now an international issue. It's an only example. We have so many other examples, and a lot of examples are not well internationally known. Why the Darfur problem is now being politicized? Because there are superpowers who are interested in oil and other things, and these superpowers are behind the escalation of the situation in Darfur. They are interested in oil, and these powers who are or who have economic interests in the continent in general, I can say that probably they have some attempts in moving forward the events in Darfur. Probably you haven't heard this before. That's why it's quite important to hear it from me. My personal point of view is that any African issue, because I know Africa quite well, and I know the tribes of Africa, I know the borders, I know the countries, and I think I'm the only and the sole one in the world who used my car, and I went with my car over 20,000 kilometers in Africa. I've seen so many people in villages, in cities, over grass, and I've been living with them, and I know how they eat, how they live, and I have that information about the African continent because I know Africa and I'm part of Africa. And I started, we heard about Abdel Nasser, Haile Selassie, Jomo Kenyatta, and I think you don't know that I was part of these leaders, and I was part, and I am part of the African continent. The problems started between tribes, and eventually they came to an end. But now we've started such problems, and with the aim of politicizing them. I think there's no need to politicize the problems and to put an international aspect on such a problem. Darfur is not a political problem, it's not a social problem, it's not even an economic problem. The problem in Darfur is a problem between tribes, very local problems between farmers and others. And we know that such problems might happen in any place of the world, and a local mediation might be able to solve the problem, because those tribes have their own norms and their own traditions and their own ways of solving the problems. You know, I think you don't know, but let me tell you, Darfur has kings and sultans, and they are now part of Africa. Africa has kings and sheikhs and sultans, and a lot of such titles are available in Africa within the country itself. This is the norm of a tribe, which is okay, which is good, and we need to respect it. We need not to politicize things, and if the problem was left to the kings and sultans of Darfur, then they might be able to end it. Now, the superpowers and the international powers are now involved, and we need to know how ready are they to solve the problem. For example, you might find poor people, very poor, in Darfur or any other place. Let's say in Darfur. The problem of Darfur is now worldwide dealt with, and the charities, the countries, the societies start sending aids to Darfur, and the poor people in Darfur are quite happy, because they thank their God because they have a problem, and due to that problem they are now receiving aids from these countries, charities and other. They need now the problem to go on, because they are receiving aids. They are receiving aids, and they might leave their villages, and they might say that we left our villages because of the disturbances over there. We are refugees now, because they are happy to receive these aids, clothes, supplies. And after that, they went back again. They took these things during the day, and they went back during the night to their places with all such aids from the charities and countries. Those people really are willing the problem of Darfur to continue, because if the problem came to its end, now the aids will come to its end. So we open that door. If we don't give them aids, if we leave the problem to them to solve it, then they will be sure able to solve it without any international interference. Now we help them to be willing to aggravate the problem because of these international aids coming to them. We find some local leaders in Darfur, for example, a lawyer or an officer. He is unknown, and when we gave him a chance to talk in the name of such a tribe or of a movement or a faction, and he goes to the media, and he is now well listened and well known worldwide, being a rebel or whatever. He is, I could say, he is really psychic, because he was unknown, he is whatever, and now he is very well known. He is everywhere of the media. He is here and there and everywhere, and we gave him a floor to defend those people and to ask for freedom, and these things and these phrases are quite prepared, and we don't think it's a real fact. We don't think it's a real fact, and the problem of poverty is everywhere. It's not only in Darfur, it's in the whole third world, because of the colonialization and colonialism. That's why we have such poor people everywhere, and the uneducated people are everywhere. But now we gave the chance to someone to be a leader and to enter into talks and to start negotiations. This will never come to an end, because if the problem came to an end, now it's the time for him to stop talking. So he will really be willing to aggravate the problem, because he talked to the Congress, he talked to the news agencies, he talks to the media. This person again will never be willing to end the problem of Darfur, because he is always enjoying such a glory which is not a real one. That's why I think such a problem really should be neglected and shouldn't be politicized and shouldn't be dealt on the international level, because the tribes are dealing with each other. The tribes have their leaders, and those leaders are able to solve the problems, the inner problems. It's not the first time to see such a quarrel between the tribes. These quarrels are dealt with, and these quarrels are not politicized. That's why I would like to say the Darfur problem is not has nothing to do with racism, because has nothing to do with Arabs or Africans, because the Sudanese are Arabs and are Africans, and we know the main tribes in the region. We know Al-Masaliya tribe, Al-Zagat tribe, and Al-Zghawa tribe, Al-Fur tribe. These are the main tribes in the region. You can't say who is an Arab and who is not. It's not the way. They are melt together. They are Muslims, and they follow the same sect, which is the Sunni sect. They all speak Arabic. They have the same local dialect, and they understand each other. So there's no such a gap between them. We don't have that blue side and the other one. We don't have that Arab side or the other one. No, they are meld together. They are combined together. It's very difficult to differentiate between an Arab and non-Arab. Al-Masari tribe, for example, they said, we are from Libya, we are from Salata in Libya, and they migrated to Darfur. So they are Arabs. Zghawa tribe have thousands of them in Libya, in Chad, in Sudan as well. They are all combined, they are all integrated. Al-Masalit, Al-Razigat tribes are in southern Darfur, in northern Darfur. You cannot classify them into Arabs or non-Arabs. I'm telling you the mere truth. This is the mere truth. We have a sort of a conflict between the famous players on the international scene, like the US, like China. Everyone wants his share in the region, especially if there is oil over there, which is a dangerous thing. And after that, there are also countries who need to put its feet on the soil of that region, such countries who need to bring the forces over there under the pretext of solving the problem. The superpowers are really behaving in a bad way. The superpowers have their imperial interests. It's not very ethical, and these are the attitudes of every emperor, the Roman, the Muslims, the Mongolian. Every one has its own interests. So this is what I want to say regarding Darfur. Regarding the other issues you want to deal with, other than Darfur, you need to know something about the Middle East problem. Yes, the Middle East problem, the Palestinian problem. Dear sons, I would like to tell you that I've studied history, and I know the history of this region. I know the history of these countries in the Middle East. The Palestinians and the Israelis are cousins. They are cousins, and the Hebrew and the Arabic are really similar, and they have sort of similarities. Let's now talk about the so-called Palestine, or what is called now Israel. This area is the mutual house. The Israelis, the Palestinians can live mutually in this area because none of them has the right to claim that Palestine or the land between the river and the Mediterranean is his. None of them has the right to declare a state and to deprive the other side. And that's why the Arabs don't want to admit the existence of Israel, because the Israelis have claimed their state, and this area is amongst them, so none of them has the right to declare that this is his land and to give his name to such land. This is not right. That's why the Arabs don't want to acknowledge Israel, like what happened in Cyprus. It's not acknowledged by anyone except Turkey, because the two parts, the Turkish Cypriots and the Greek Cypriots, they are the people of Cyprus. It's the mutual house. None of them has the right to declare his own state and to give such a land a certain name. That's why the acknowledgement was not really given to this except by Turkey. And the same is in Palestine. Everyone now acknowledges Israel, which is not fair. We need to know that a sole and only party has nothing to do with such a land. There is also, since the year 1948, a mistake committed. The mistake at that time was committed when the establishment of the State of Israel, anyhow, regardless what happened in the past, now let's deal with the problem. We have a serious problem, and I think the ways the problem are being dealt with will never solve. Everyone makes use of the problems of the Palestinians or the problems of the Jews in the past for his own sake. A president who wants to win the election, or a party who needs to win the elections, just political interests, the superpower when we have the so-called the Soviet Union and the US and the Warsaw Pact and the NATO. Everyone exploits the Middle East problem, and each part makes use or made use of this problem for his own sake. The victims, to be honest, are the Palestinians and the Israelis as well, because the deaths are here and there from both sides. None of the Russians, none of the French, none of the Americans lost his life. The people who are lost are Palestinians or Israelis, and I think geographically we need to know, or we know, that it's a very narrow area. From Kalkilia it goes to 15 kilometers. It couldn't be an area for two states, and the depth of the population over there is only for 15 kilometers. We can't find a state with a 15 kilometers depth. That's why when we have a Palestinian state in the West Bank, then it will be under the domination of Israel. Even with a plane or with a motor, it will be within the hands of Israel. If there is a war, then 15 kilometers will never be a sort of a protection. The West Bank is quite isolated from the Gaza Strip. There's a long distance between Gaza Strip and the West Bank. The West Bank or the General Bank And so, in this case, how can we establish a state? Part of it on the Mediterranean, and part of it is on the Jordan River, the West Bank. And within the so-called Israel, there are 1 million Palestinians who are working, and tomorrow there will be 1.5 million. After that will be 2 millions, 3 millions. And the numbers are increasing of the Palestinians inside Israel. So, up to the moment, it's not a Jewish state. It's not a 100% Jewish state. It's a state with 1 million Palestinians within its borders, and this number is growing of Palestinians. And you know that the numbers of the Palestinians is rapidly growing compared to the numbers of the Israelis. This state, which is Israel, has within its borders 1 million Palestinians, and they are living together in harmony. So, this is an example of the one state. The solution is to establish a one state that is called Israel or whatever you call it, but a one state for both Palestinians and Israelis is the resolution. We have Palestinians who already have the Israeli nationality, the Israeli passports, and those are amongst the problem makers. These narrow land will be never a proper place for two states. The real solution is a democratic one state, and the international opinion should practice pressure and should abide itself to such a solution, and we need to get rid of all aspects of racism, depending on color or race or religion or whatever. These things are not to hinder the lasting peace between the Palestinians and Israelis in this land. And I think you know that the Jews are quite in harmony. They are existing with the Arabs for long time, and when the Arabs are expelled from Spain on the 15th century, the Arabs and the Jews were both expelled, and the Arab states are the states who receive the Jews and protect the Jews. And the Romans, when they destroyed Jerusalem, when the Romans destroyed Jerusalem in the year probably 72, the Jews were expelled, and they went to the Arab Peninsula, and they have the villages, and they have a whole valley which is close to Al Medina, which is a city in the so-called Saudi Arabia. So the Arabs protected the Jews from the Romans, and the coexistence is there, and they are cousins. Abraham, the Prophet Abraham, has a son called Ismail and a son called Yitzhak, and Yaqub is now the father of the Israelis. And I want to say that they are cousins in all cases. They are quite close to each other. These powers, the superpowers, or the powers who have interests in the region, they help that sort of conflict. And I'd like to tell you that I have put the white book, and there's an English version of it. The name is Israel, half from Israel and half from Palestine. And I think you have such a book. I think you have it amongst you. We call through the book for the establishment of a one democratic state to be supervised by the UN within the preliminary elections. Then they will go into existence together. We don't care in this case whether the president is a Jew or a Muslim or a Christian. The one who is elected by the people in this case is the president. And we have now an Arab party in Israel. We have Arab deputies in the Israeli Knesset. So we have that model. The West Bank, I won't tell you, it's a mixture between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Gaza. So they are now living in consistency. They can do it. The Israeli factors, for example, has a lot of Palestinians from West Bank and Gaza Strip working over there. The Israeli factors depend mainly on the Palestinian manpower from both West Bank and Gaza Strip. Commodities and services are also depending. The culture as well is a mutual thing between the two sides, the Palestinians and the Israelis, and I think they are quite close to each other. And I call for the establishment of one state to put an end to this conflict. But we need the refugees, the Palestinian refugees, to go back home. Those Palestinian refugees should go back home because it's their land, it's the farms, it's the homes. They need to go back peacefully, the Palestinian refugees. Then, such state should have nothing to do with the mass destruction weapons. This state should have nothing to do with the mass destruction state. No mass destruction state in this state, even if it is governed by Yasser Arafat or Abu Mazen or whoever. I invite you to read my white book, which calls for the establishment of that state. It's Isratin, or Isratin, whatever. Half from Israel and half from Palestine. I'm sure you have that book now. Then let's move according to you about the reform of the United Nations. As this issue raises some points, amongst which is the reform of the United Nations. We spent years talking about the Security Council and the increase of the members of the Security Council and the permanent seats of the Security Council and non-permanent as well. And what we have to discuss is the United Nations reform. The United Nations is not the General Assembly, is not the Security Council, is not these other councils. It belongs to the UN, the UNESCO, the UNICEF, the other organizations. The UN is these all organizations that belong to this international organization. But what is happening now, the situation now, is not legal, is not democratic, and the world has to change the situation, which is rather dictatorship that never helps peace. It threatens peace rather than helping the establishment of peace. The Security Council is the security of terrorism. The Security Council took a lot from the capacities of the United Nations and is only the Security Council which is dominated by the 5 permanent members of that council who enjoyed the veto. And that's why we, the small people or the weak people, we do not trust the United Nations, we do not trust the Security Council. The intellectuals, the philosophers, and those people who are like you, I think they have that point of view as well. We don't trust the Security Council, and we are not quite satisfied with the performance of the Security Council. We have the problem in Iraq, the problem in Afghanistan, the occupation of Iraq, the occupation of Afghanistan, the problem in Yugoslavia, the destruction in these areas. All these things happen with the existence of the United Nations, with the existence of the Security Council. Why don't we apply the Chapter 7 of the Charter? on US or other countries, because the US and other superpowers enjoy the veto, and the United Nations and the Security Council can do nothing with these superpowers. And that's why we call for the reform of the United Nations through implementing democracy in this world international organization. And we think the International Assembly is the world parliament, and the parliament has the power to legislate and the power to make laws and the power to make the Security Council is playing the part of a government of the General Assembly, and the government has to apply the laws adopted by the Parliament. Can we say that the British government is able to make the laws and to ask the British Parliament to implement such laws? No. The British Parliament is to make the laws and ask the government to implement and apply such laws. What's happened in the United Nations is the government, which is the Security Council, is issuing the laws and issuing the decrees and asking General Assembly to apply. Now, the situation is really not in the proper place, and the Security Council decides, the General Assembly implement. The General Assembly of the all nations, the General Assembly of the all countries who form such an organization has to play its role and has to have the capacity to implement democracy. The General Assembly couldn't accept the aggression against a country. But in this case, 5 members of the Security Council, or even 1 member, could impose its decision on the international community. It's not legitimate at all. We need to put an end to this matter. The reform is to reform the Security Council, and the Chapter 7 of the Charter should be applied by the General Assembly. The resolutions should be issued by the General Assembly. The Security Council, in this case, has to apply this if they want really to reform the international organization. Otherwise, the situation is really deteriorating, and we need to form another General Assembly for the poor and for the weak countries. And now, the mechanisms made by the international community is really not working. We can say that we have now a new charter according to the event and according to the aggression, according to the torture. The charter of the UN says no threat with force and none permittance to use such a force. Now the threat is there and the application of force is there under so many pretexts or under any pretext. That's why I say the UN Charter came to its end. What happened against Libya or against Panama or Yugoslavia or Iraq or Afghanistan or any other country, such things form really a new charter, a verbal charter. And it's happened already, and we need to follow the law of the force. The force is the international law, but what we are practicing now is the law of force, which is imposed on everyone. We can't believe that the superpowers who are really doing such acts and really doing such aggression and really doing such occupation, when they talk about democracy, when they talk about human rights, we can't believe them. And in this regard as well, when we talk about democracy, when we talk about the Security Council, the General Assembly of the United Nations, I have also the Green Book, and I think you should have that book as well. We have the Arab version and the English version, the Arabic and English version of the Green Book. When you read that book, it's not coming out of my mind. It's coming out of my experiences and my study my study of the history, and I know a lot about the reasons behind wars, the reasons behind peace, democracy. When we talk about democracy, democracy is a part of two words. Demo means people, and chairs means the people on the chairs. The people is to govern. This is democracy. And it's probably an Arab word, democracy or democracy. The people is to chair and the people is to govern. This is democracy. This is democracy. If we need to apply a real democracy, we need to give the people the chance to govern and to sit on the chair and to issue the laws and to create the system that he really needs. The people is the master of the ceremony. We cannot deprive the people from his supremacy and to give such a supremacy to the deputies or to certain persons. This theory, matter of fact, is very important, and I can say that the deputies cannot really play a role of the people. Who can represent? Who can dream instead of you? Who can be? What's that? Who can achieve this? Yes, نعم سيد القائد تفضل. Who can dream instead of you? Who can dream instead of the people of better things and better life? Who can hope instead of you? Who can achieve your hopes and achieves your needs except you? No one can deputize you. You do such things by yourself, on your own. The social life, the economic life, the political life is really part of your life. You have to do it yourself. No one can represent you. We can't say that we have in this village 20,000 people and we can choose one and we tell him you are deputizing those thousands or those millions. We can't have people of millions and only tens of deputies. So the people should do things on his own, and no one can deputize him. Let's say now, who can express the opinions of 100,000 people, for example? He can only express his views. And in Britain, for example, the deputies support a type of policy, and the people goes into demonstrations against things that are already approved by the deputies. If the deputies of the parliament are really representing the people, so why the people go to the streets? Why the people organize such demonstrations? Like what happened in Iraq. The Congress in America, the Congress, the people want the American forces to withdraw from Iraq, and the American administration is insisting on keeping these forces in Iraq. That's why the people is in one side and the deputies are on the other side. That's what I have said in the Green Book. No one can deputize the people. No one can represent the people. The people represent its own. This is democracy. The popular committees, the people is divided into committees, into popular conferences, into popular committees, and these committees will decide. The Libyan people now is divided into 30,000 committee, each one consists of 100 male and female persons, those who are really able to say their wishes and to have the say and to practice power and to be responsible. These 3 million people who are divided into these small committees, these 3 millions are the ones who put the policy of the society, the home policy, the foreign policy. Then they have other meetings to determine a lot of things. That's why the practice of democracy is through the popular committees. No democracy without popular conferences and popular committees. These popular committees are everywhere. These are everywhere, and these are the real slogans that we raise. Anyhow, these are the issues that you raised and you need me to talk about. I hope that I covered the issues you asked for, and I will be glad to accept your invitations from time to time whenever I find an opportunity, and we need to talk very freely about the topic you chose to deal with. Now, if you have any questions, I will be glad to answer before we come to the end of this meeting. Now, I'm happy to receive questions.
Thank you very much, Brother Leader.
شكرا الأخ القائد.
The first question, in fact,
السؤال الأول في الواقع
يأتي
من مايكل وهو دكتوراه في الفلسفة، والموضوع هو العلاقات الليبية. شكرا الأخ القائد.
Celebrations of the great socialist people's Libyan Arab Jamahariya in Sabah, and listen to your presentation there.
فخامة الأخ القائد سأوجز لكم السؤال حالا.
Thanks. Please go. If you could just begin. Yes, please.
Thank you for your reflections on Libya's international relations.
وأوضحت الكثير عن العلاقات الليبية.
I had the pleasure and the honor of leading a group of 25 graduate students from Cambridge University to the 30th anniversary celebration of the great socialist people's Libyan Arab Jamahariya in Sabah in February and March of this year. At the invitation of the Green Book Center, Dr. Abdullah and Mr. Khalid, who is with us this evening. We enjoyed our time there and found the debate very stimulating about Libya's recent turn in foreign relations.
ليبيا الأخير في علاقاتها الخارجية.
My research focuses on Libya's relations with the United States, and specifically during the 1990s and the early part of this decade.
في المرحلة الخاصة من التسعينات من والعقد الحالي.
The comments that have been made on the Libyan side
التعليقات
and
التي
on the American
صدرت
side
من الجانبين الأمريكي والليبي
were initially very optimistic about the improvement in
للغاية
relations.
بشأن تحسن العلاقات الأمريكية الليبية.
More recently, there seems
وفي
to
الآونة
have been
الأخيرة
great discord
يبدو أنه
continues
كان
between the two
هناك
states.
رغبة في الاستمرار في هذا بين الدولتين.
And I would like to just read two short
وأود
quotes
أن أقرأ اقتباسين
that demonstrate the discord which seems to
يوضحان
continue
هذا
between
الأمر والرغبة في استمراره بين الدولتين بين ليبيا وأمريكا.
The first quote is from Vice President Dick Cheney
ديك تشيني نائب الرئيس الأمريكي
who said,
قال
we took down the Iraqi government.
أسقطنا الحكومة العراقية.
Saddam Hussein is no longer in power.
لم يعد
He's in
هناك
jail.
ما يسمى صدام حسين أصبح الآن في السجن وخارج السلطة.
His government is gone.
حكومة صدام حسين ذهبت ولن تعود.
Mr. Gaddafi in Libya watched all of this
الرئيس
unfold,
القذافي في ليبيا يرقب كل هذا.
saw our operations in Afghanistan and
وعلى
Iraq,
ذلك الوضع أيضا في العراق وفي أفغانستان يرقبه.
and 5 days after we captured Saddam
وبعد
Hussein,
5 أيام من اعتقال صدام حسين
he went public and announced that he
ذهب
was going to give
الأخ
up all of his
القذافي
weapons of mass
وقال
destruction.
علنا إننا سوف نتخلى عن أسلحة الدمار الشامل.
Your son, Saif al-Islam
ابنكم
Gaddafi,
أيها الأخ القائد سيف الإسلام القذافي
has responded that, and I quote,
استجاب وأنا أنقل الآن
Libya's critics make a mistake in suggesting that its
ليبيا
overture to the
ارتكبت
United
خطأ
States
عندما تم هذا مع
is the
الولايات
product
المتحدة.
of political weakness.
الموقف هنا كان ضعفا سياسيا.
On the contrary, Libya feeling
على
secure
العكس
about
ليبيا
its
تشعر
achievements
الآن بالأمان وبالراحة لما
holds out
أنجزته
its hand from political
وتضع
strength.
الآن يدها خارج إطار التوتر السياسي.
Could you please comment on
الأخ القائد
the motivations that brought
هل
about
يمكن
the
أن
original
توضحوا
diplomatic
لنا
breakthrough
الدوافع التي
and
أدت
where
إلى هذا الأمر
those
والتحسن في
relations
العلاقات
stand
الأمريكية
today
الليبية
and where they're going
وأين
in the
تقف هذه
future?
العلاقات في
Thank you.
المرحلة الحالية وما هو مستقبل العلاقات الأمريكية الليبية؟
شكرا دكتور مايكل واشكرك على
You, Doctor, and I appreciate your participation.
طبعا لما يقع
Of course,
كل واحد يحاول
everyone is trying to make use of an event for his sake and for his interest,
لا يكون هذا الاستغلال
but such
قبل حدوث
a use or such a thing couldn't be
في عمليه الاستغلال
declared before they happened, took place. Cheney, why Cheney didn't say this
قبل ما ليبيا
before Libya took that historic decision? Why Cheney didn't say that we will do such for Libya within 5 months if they step down from trying to acquire such a weapon of mass destruction? Because this is not true. He said that after we took the decision, he made use of our decision according to his wishes and interpretations. And I'd like to tell you, my sons, that the American president has acknowledged this. And he said that talks with Libya before our decision went for 9 months.
يعني 9 شهور
9 months of negotiations without even announcing this between Libya and the superpowers with an international mediation regarding the nuclear program. At that time, Saddam was on and Saddam was not toppled, and even the aggression, the occupation of Iraq hasn't happened. We don't feel scary from America, and why then, if we fear America, why we have more than 30 years of developing such a program when America were within the crazy period of Reagan, who suffered Alzheimer, and we've told them that Reagan is suffering from Alzheimer, and then they acknowledge this fact. And we think the behavior of Reagan was due to Alzheimer he has suffered. Why don't we fear Reagan while he was really pressuring and moving on his fleets? We need to say we are quite convinced. We are quite convinced because acquiring mass destruction weapons is a sort of a wave or a fashion worldwide, any country was or is willing to acquire the weapons of mass destruction and atomic weapons without even studying the situation. We have discovered that our equipment are now known to everyone, and the program is now quite known to the American CIA, and the CIA has recordings of talks with the nuclear scientists and the Libyan scientists, and these negotiations and these talks are not secret. They were well known, and we need to talk in a peaceful way with America and with Britain via my friend, the former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, who sent me so many envoys, and they talked to me about our nuclear program, and the equipment are now about to be escalated, and we thought it's not a wise idea to continue. Then the costs of such a nuclear program are very high. And we ask ourselves, why should we have an atomic bomb? Why should we acquire an atomic bomb? Are we going to hit Israel with such atomic bomb? No, because as I told you, in Israel there are 1 million Palestinians, so it's not logic to drop our atomic bomb on Israel and to kill the Palestinians, and in this case, Gaza Strip will never be away from the effect of such an atomic bomb. The West Bank, Jordan, Egypt will never be safe if we drop such an atomic bomb on Israel. That's why it's not wise to go on with this idea. Now, is Libya going to hit Europe or to drop a bomb on Europe? Or is not Europe now is not the old Europe of colonialism. Now we have good cooperation between us and the European Union, and we have now talks about trade, about investments, about protecting the environment, the climate change, the Mediterranean basin, and the participation on everything, economic institutions, and so many other prospects. Europe now is a friend. Europe now is that of Mussolini and the others and the likes. So it's quite impossible, it's not wise at all to think that Libya is going to hit Europe. Who is Europe? Europe is a group of countries that are now friends to Libya. So there's no need to have that atomic bomb. Are we going to have that atomic bomb to hit America? Are we going to have that nuclear weapons to hit America? Do you think that we need to protect America from Libya? This is quite impossible to be achieved or to be done. Do you think a wise man can hit America with 1 Libyan bomb or 10 Libyan bomb, and then America will reply with a double number of bombs? No, this is not logic. This is not logic at all. It's not logic to attack Russia or America or China, who has lots, hundreds and thousands of these bombs. Are we going to use these bombs against Africa? No. We are part of Africa. We are building Africa. And that's why, at the end of the day, we say it's not wise, after the evaluation of the international situation, it's not wise to go on, and we decided that such a nuclear program is a traditional way of thinking. We follow the wave in the world of acquiring such bombs and such weapons. Now the wave came to its end. Now Pakistan has an atomic bomb. Why against India? India has an atomic bomb. Why against Pakistan? So this part has atomic and the other part has not. This is not logic. So if Pakistan has, than India should have because of the balance between them. The mass destruction program, the nuclear program, whether is really dangerous, and we hope that the whole world get rid of such mass destruction weapons. We don't fear anyone, we only fear Allah Almighty. And Dick Cheney, when he said this, was not quite accurate. He behaves like Reagan. I hope Dick Cheney is not sick and is not suffering like Reagan, and we hope he will be fine. And I think Cheney's statements, I think these statements doesn't reflect a sick man. Suppose that we believe Dick Cheney. It's wise for a country like Libya, with 5 million people, be able to confront the U.S. with all its weapons and fleets. And if Libya, with the 5 million people, is willing to avoid confrontation with such an imperial country like the U.S., I think it's wise. So this is wise, and this is braveness. That's why I have decided to stop it. And I think with my all freedom, I have decided to take this decision. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Leader. Now,
Shukran.
Do we have a very short question from the floor, please, so that I can, if you announce it to me, I will repeat it for the interpreter. Yes, please, sir.
ممكن أسأل سؤال طبعا.
Colonel Gaddafi, you were instrumental in the formation of the African Union, and you've called publicly for the United States of Africa. How possible do you think this is within the next decade or 2 decades?
Thank you.
Do you think it is ever possible?
Brother Leader, you have publicly called for the African Union to develop into the United States of Africa. Do you think this is possible within the next decade or 2, or even possible at all?
Yes, it could be. It could be. The Africans are now following the steps of Europe, which is consisting of nations who had a lot of wars, destructive wars, and loads of killed people, and a lot of wars between the European countries have took place, and the Europeans now feel that it's better for them to be unified, and we are, the Africans, are following the steps of the Europeans in this connection. In addition to that, I'd like to say that the Africans are not quarreling nations. We are all black nation. We are consisting of tribes, and we are really united in a way. We are living in harmony. We have the same color. We are black, and we have the same color. So it's for the interest of all the continent to be united and to face the challenges of globalization. And I think every single nation cannot stand on its own unless they are all united. If it is possible for a single nation, so in this case Britain might live on its own, France might live on its own. So those good countries, those big countries are now united within the European Union. So it's better for the Africans to have their unity, whether it's an African Union or the United African States or whatever. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The third question now, sorry, just to say that Brother Leader has been very generous with his time. Now, if you will all, members of the House, please bear with us, give us your patience. We do have, hopefully, more questions to come. The third question will be from BBC Africa. Have your say.
Shall I say to you?
Yes, please.
Thank you. My name is Alex Turkana, and we've heard about the African Union. You're now pushing for the United States of Africa. Initially, you were a keen advocate for Arab unity, and then suddenly, at the start of this new millennium, you are a passionate and vocal advocate for African unity. Why?
Mr. Interpreter, did you catch all of that?
Yes, I did.
Thank you very much.
سيد الرئيس كيف نعم
Would you like me to restate it?
the question is not quite completed. It's an idea anyhow. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Would the brother leader like
the Arab unity, we need to know that the human history witnessed so many stages, the material stage, the demographic stage, and when it comes to the religion stage, we have religious groups, regardless the nationalities. We have the emperor, the Islamic or the Roman or the etc. When it comes to the other step with the unity of Italy or Germany or Turkey or Iran or China, so now we have those national steps. The Arab as a religion or as are not really quite able to go to follow such a step. Now, the world is quite materialistic, and those people who have similar interests have to go and find what is for the sake of themselves. We can't say now we are able to have a unity between Libya and Marrakesh. We cannot have a unity outside the demographic area. There is no any possibility to have a unity between the European Union and New Zealand or Australia. It's not impossible to have such unity because geographically it couldn't be the way. Yes. And every region has its own ways of being united. We have now the ASEAN, we have the Commonwealth, and we have the African Union, we have the US, we have Latin America. The world now is being divided into about 7 or 10 groupings, main groupings that contains countries, and the currencies also will be united in a way. The world banks will be also gathered in a way, and this is the new world form. I think we can't talk about the Arab unity now because we don't know where the Arab should be put in unless they accept my invitation. And they need to join the African Union, and we have to establish the so-called African Arab Union. 2/3 of the Arabs now are Africans, and the other third is in Asia. This is the situation. To have that unity, we need to join Africa, because we can't talk now about such a religious unity or such unity unless we join a gathering. The currency that works now is demography, is the materialistic interest, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Leader. I have one more question here that has been submitted. You have bravely stood up, and I quote, "You have bravely stood up against the global dictatorship. The whole free world of non-aligned people have benefited. Can you support taking the US to the International Crimes Tribunal for war crimes against Iraq?" End quote.
The whole world knows what is happening in Iraq, and the whole world is now making his own views regarding the situation over there. When there is a mistake, the mistake should be corrected. The invasion of Iraq is a mistake that is acknowledged by the US and by Britain. They both say that we have information about mass destruction weapons acquired by Iraq. The Iraq has been inspected, the Iraq has been hit, the Iraq has been divided, and they never find mass destruction weapons in Iraq. They regret what's happened, they acknowledge the mistakes committed by them in Iraq, but this is not logic. You slaughter a people, you destroy a country for the sake of some information. Now, the superpower who has permanent members of the Security Council are behaving in such a dangerous way. They destroy that people according and depending on rumors or depending on improper information. This is not really fair, this is not really logic. And it's a mistake acknowledged by those people who have done it. They need to regret, they need to withdraw from Iraq, they need to leave Iraq for the Iraqis, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brother Leader. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for, so thank you very much to the members of the House for your patience and for your contributions, and thank you above all, Brother Leader Muammar al-Gaddafi.
Thank you very much for you all. And we hope we'll meet again. Thanks a lot.